and welcome to A Drummer's Guide to, the podcast all about the things surrounding being a professional musician aside from actually playing your instrument. My name is Emily Dolan Davies. I'm a drummer by trade, I suppose. And today I wanted to talk about something that I get asked about a lot, actually. And funnily enough, the last person to ask me about it, and which cracks me up, is my cousin Mickey, who I love. Hello, Mickey, if you're listening to this, who basically said to me, I want to know how you stay so positive. This is hilarious to me because she is super positive too, and my family generally have quite a positive outlook on life, so it cracked me up that she asked me that. But anyway, it is something that I get asked about a fair amount, and I just thought that I would share my thoughts on sort of like being positive and all that sort of stuff, because I think it's something that sort of comes naturally to me for various reasons of like upbringing and things like that. But actually there's a lot more to it, and it's a lot more purposeful than it maybe has been for me in the past. Although my natural state now is to see the positive, I've been through periods in my life where it has not been that, and it's been really, really difficult. So I just thought I'd share that and hopefully kind of help you in some way to show that it can be something that's quite purposeful, if that makes sense. So I sort of have been reflecting on this subject because, as I say, I feel like it comes quite naturally to me generally, not all the time. And I was trying to think about why that was, and I'll explain what I mean in a minute. But basically, well, no, I'll explain now. So when things happen, when bad things happen, subjectively bad things happen, I often have a reaction of like, oh no, and then immediately followed by something along the lines of, well, at least, or, well, let's look at the positive, or, you know, just trying to find something good. I'm glad that that's my reaction to things. There are pitfalls with that, which I will touch upon, but what I will say is that the reason that this is now my sort of default setting, and it's something that I've definitely trained myself to do, which, as I say, although it's inside of me, is that positive thing because of how I was brought up and all that sort of stuff. The people that I surround myself are very positive too. Actually, the reason that I react like that to most things is out of necessity. And what I mean by that is that I've touched on this a little bit before in previous episodes, but I have had basically a pretty much lifelong struggle with depression and anxiety. I've been doing various types of therapy since I was about 21, mainly CBT, although at the moment I'm doing talking therapy, and that is just, I'm really enjoying that. I don't know whether you're meant to say that you're enjoying therapy, but I am. I find it really fascinating. It's really interesting. But anyway, my last but one therapist, CBT practitioner, we were talking about stuff, and I sort of was feeling really down, but there was no logical reason, and I am a person that works with logic. I need to understand, like, logically why I'm feeling away, and it just didn't make sense. And I could see, talking to her, she was like, it doesn't make sense, like, what you're saying, because, yeah, anyway, we sort of had this conversation, and she said to me, you know, have you ever thought about the fact that it might just be a chemical imbalance within your brain? And it's something that maybe medication could actually help with, help sort out. And I've always been very anti-medication. It's the way that I've been brought up. My mum was a nurse, and she was always like, try everything before medication, which I completely agree with. Anyway, that's another route I don't really want to go down because I have no expertise in that kind of realm. It's just my experience. But anyway, I went on this medication, and it turns out, I think, my brain is just chemically a little bit imbalanced, and now, honestly, whole new world that I've woken up to since taking that, and I've been on it for just over a year now, and yeah, it's changed my life. Anyway, I don't know why I've gone down this route. Oh yes, I know why. Because the point is, for so long, like I said, not that long, maybe 25 years. I've 25 years, is that accurate? Maybe 20 years. I've suffered with some form of, like, mainly depression, I'd say. And what that means is that it's been very difficult to feel motivated and to see the positive and stuff. But I managed to work out ways to react to inherently negative situations to sort of help myself not get into that hole that I know was my default setting, as it were, because that was my baseline. My baseline was this feeling of depression, difficulty, struggle, dullness, maybe even numbness to most things. It would be very rare that I would feel inherent sort of joy or happiness. There would be moments, and I can still recall very specific moments, and they're so precious to me because they were so few and far between. Sorry, I'm getting a bit deep now, so I apologize if this is too much, but I do try and stick to the thing that I want to be as vulnerable as I can with you guys. And I'm not saying that I'm able to be completely, because I still have issues, and I'm human at the end of the day, as we all are, but I want to try and be as honest as I can be. But anyway, I found ways of dealing with this natural setting of just dullness, difficulty, struggle, all of that stuff, which now, coming out of it really highlights how bad it was. But I made some coping mechanisms for myself, and that was through like reading loads of books. I've been reading sort of, if you want to call it, I started out with self-help literature, I suppose, when I was about 18. It's kind of developed into more psychological kind of reading, and if you don't know, I'm also studying a psychology degree at the moment. I've always been fascinated by the brain, but anyway, I started out with self-help stuff. A lot of the stuff that I read early on, I would not recommend. It was not like, it's a difficult area to kind of read, because there's a lot of stuff that people just say stuff. I now like books that have studies, and there's a lot of science backing up claims. I think it's potentially quite dangerous, some of those books, but anyway, again, another subject for another time. But the point is, I got given these sort of tools to deal with myself and the way that my brain was going at the time, to almost reprogram how I was thinking. I've been doing this now for a long time, like a lot. I don't even know how long, but basically I just wanted to share with you how I still deal with inherently negative situations or whatever, how I choose to see them, and just how I get to that point. Because so whenever, I'll let you into a secret, and this is going to make me sound, I don't know how it's going to make me sound, but there we go. The key for me, whenever something bad happens, bad in inadvertent commas, is I have a set of sayings that I'll say to myself. So generally it will be, well, at least, and then try and find something positive that can come out of this situation potentially. And this can be really out there, it can be really like just so off kilter that it's just unbelievable, but the point is getting me into a better frame of mind. Either that, or I'll sort of say to myself, okay, let's think about this logically. What is the actual worst that can happen? And then go through that and realize that actually the very worst that can happen is still manageable. Like, I'll still make it through, it will be okay, like it will be okay. And the key to all of that, which is the thing that I am very skeptical to share, I suppose, scared to share, I talk to myself like a lot, like an insane amount, especially at the moment. I've found myself doing it in the last few months. I have daily conversations with myself where I check in with myself. Again, this comes off the back of a book called The Chimp Paradox, which is by a wonderful author. He is a scientist, he is he's a doctor, essentially, a Professor Steve Peters. If you're into any sort of psychology whatsoever, this book literally changed my life. I think I've read it now maybe 3 or 4 times, and now he's got a second book which I've already read twice. Not that I'm obsessive, obviously, but honestly, the way that this guy kind of lays out about the human brain and how you relate to your thoughts and drives and all sorts of stuff is fascinating. If you're interested in that, go check it out. I'm almost tempted to do an episode on it, like sort of not reviewing it because I don't think that, but how it's related to me. And I am tempted to do that, so I may well do that. Anyway, that may be another episode. But The Chimp Paradox, go check that out. So anyway, let's go into some practical examples of what I mean by this, because I know it may sound a little bit abstract, because I I'm in a bit of an abstract mood today, I must admit. I'm going to try and keep it concise, but let's talk about it in terms of like music, first of all, obviously, and experiences being a musician, whether you're pro, whether you're semi-pro, trying to go pro, all that sort of stuff, or maybe you're just a hobbyist, I don't know, but I think that rhymed. That's nice. So let's talk about, for instance, auditions. Auditions are a really good one because no matter what stage you're at, you'll always have some form of audition as long as you're looking to go play with other people, which to me is kind of the essence of playing an instrument. Like, that is why I play an instrument, is to play with other people, is to connect with other people, whether that's other musicians, an audience, whatever else. It's part of the reason I do this, to connect with you. But let's say you go for an audition. Now, there's plenty of auditions that I've been for that I haven't got. There's plenty of auditions that I haven't even gotten through the door for various reasons. Now, that's tough. Like, both those versions of that story are tough, and, you know, it's rejection at the end of the day. It's not nice. It doesn't feel good. But whereas back in the day I probably would have been a bit more, kind of take it more personally, now I will choose to believe, like, okay, cool, for whatever reason, this just wasn't the right fit. Now, this can be a drumming thing, and that's fine, because I think, bar one audition, and I still remember it, and I'm still annoyed about it with myself, although there were good reasons, only one audition have I ever not felt prepared. So therefore, I've always gone in doing everything I can, and because I've done that, I feel a peace within myself, and I'm like, cool, I know that I've done the very best that I can at that time. And, you know, obviously looking back retrospectively, I may think, oh, I could have done this better or that better, or I wish I had done this, I wish I had been more comfortable in my own skin. That's generally what it all comes down to for me. It's like, I wish I'd have been confident enough to just be me. And anyway, I've sort of gotten over that, and the more I do lean into being me, the better that things happen. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent again, but the point is that I can come out of a situation, and if I don't get the audition, it's like, cool, all right, well, maybe that wasn't meant for me, maybe that wasn't a right fit, and maybe it doesn't, you know, seem obvious on the surface, but maybe there's a reason that this didn't happen. Maybe there's something else that's more aligned with me that's coming up that I needed to be available for. Maybe I needed the space to kind of allow something else in. Maybe if I had got that gig, it would have been a nightmare. Maybe, this is another one, maybe if I got that gig, and this has happened to me, and it breaks my heart, like it breaks my own heart, which is weird. I get on a gig, and then the gig changes. There was a particular band that I used to play with. I loved this band so much. I was quite young, I was sort of like 17 maybe. I love this band so much. I still love this band. They don't exist anymore, but they're wonderful. Their music just connected with me, and I was desperate to play with them. Anyway, their drummer left, and I went to go and audition, and then they wanted me, and I joined the band. But by virtue of joining the band and me not being that other drummer, their sound changed, and it broke my heart because I felt like I'd broken the thing that I loved the most about that band. And it wasn't their drummer, it was the sound that they collectively made. So by changing one of those people, it kind of like it just changed the direction of the music, which, yeah, is a shame. So, you know, it may be that if I did end up in a situation, it would change it into something that actually I didn't like, or, you know, something weird like that. But anyway, this is the point. I tell myself a story that makes it a positive thing, and allows me to not be dragged down by that negativity, to be dragged down by the self-doubt and the self-criticism. You know, it's so easy to knock yourself down, but I think what I'm learning is you truly need to be your biggest cheerleader in life, and you need to find ways to, sorry, I keep saying you can do whatever you want. I need to be the biggest cheerleader in my life. I need a way to feel positive about any situation, because it gives me the hope and the energy to move forward. And I hope that kind of sits with you as well. And it doesn't mean that it's easy. It's very, very difficult. And as I say, auditions are kind of one aspect of that, and it kind of, in a way, it's kind of low stakes. Yes, you might want to get the gig, you might need the work, but it's low stakes in that the investment of time that you put into an audition is kind of learning the songs, taking a few hours to go, or a day to go down to audition, or up to audition somewhere, meet some new people. You know, again, I'm trying to put a positive spin. You've met new people, that's a positive. You don't know where those relationships are going to go. You don't know if you keep in touch with the people that you auditioned with, or the people that were auditioning you. You don't know where that might go. Again, this is the positive spin of like, you just don't know what's going to happen. So, but anyway, the investment is kind of not minimal, but it's not a huge amount. And again, because you are literally in a room with people for, let's say, at most, maybe half an hour if it's kind of a pop gig. Obviously, with different gigs, it's different. I've spent whole days with people or a few days with people. But the point is, they're only getting a part of you, and they're only getting a sense and an essence of who you are. So you can kind of say to yourself, okay, it's fine. Either they didn't see me at my best playing wise, and that's okay, or they didn't see my personality at its best, and that's okay too. Because if you're sort of like comfortable in yourself, and I'm not saying that I am like most of the time, if I'm honest, but I can kind of reconcile the fact that that's okay. They don't know me, and what I presented wasn't right for them, and that's okay. And we're not going to be best friends right now, but maybe we will be in the future. But anyway, that's auditions. And again, that kind of rejection is not great. And then in terms of, let's say you do get a gig, or you're on a gig, or you've been playing with a band for a long time, inevitably, everything changes in life. This is something that I sort of live by. I'm like, look, everything will change all the time. Nothing is permanent. And again, I kind of live by that because it gives me some freedom, and it gives me, I don't get surprised. I do still get surprised, can I say, but it kind of, I expect it, which sort of puts me on a better standing, I think, in terms of positivity, I think, personally. But anyway, it still doesn't make it any easier when you're leaving a gig, or leaving an artist, or being asked to leave, or whatever the situation. That can be really heartbreaking, because sometimes you've spent years with people on the road, you know, you spend your life, like they become your family, and that can be really, really tough. And again, a situation where you're leaving a gig, it can be because you've been asked to leave, it can be because you've chosen to leave, which in itself is a whole myriad of feelings, because inevitably there's going to be push and pull about that. Or maybe just the gig is naturally ending. You know, these things, all these things have happened to me, by the way. All of these things. I've been asked to leave, I've chosen to leave, and the gig has naturally ended. And all three of those are really, really difficult in their own ways. However, best word ever, however, I now, again, try to put a positive spin on these things. And I haven't always been able to do that, and sometimes it's been heartbreaking and difficult, and it's taken me a time to sort of get over it. But these days I kind of try to live in this world of acceptance of like, cool, all right, this has happened, or I've chosen this. Choosing to do it is difficult. It is difficult because personally I have to state a case to myself of like, right, am I really going to leave this? Let's weigh up the pros and the cons, and if the cons are higher, then I know I have to move on. And certain aspects carry more gravitas. Again, sorry, I'm just going off on one. But what I try to do is kind of just put a positive spin on it. And again, this comes with experience, and it comes with reflection on what has happened in the past, in difficult situations. And I'll tell you the scariest one for me, the scariest bar none situation of leaving a gig, and it was a mutual split, so it was interesting. That in itself was weird, was the darkness. 100%. That was the hardest, that was one of the most painful things to step away from. And the reason for that was because of the potential of the experience, the exposure, the you know, just the whole thing. You know, I was seen to be in a band that was recognized worldwide. Yes, I had worked with artists that people had known, you know, Brian Ferry, Tricky, Thompson Twins. You know, I was working with people that people had heard of, but as a session drummer, which is fine, and I love that, and I love the sort of anonymity that comes with that. However, this was a new territory for me, you know, being a band member and being known as a member of the Darkness. It got a lot more eyeballs than I had ever had, which in itself, very scary for me, very scary. And you know, getting all that kind of attention of like, oh, congratulations, you know, people just happening across that news that maybe I hadn't spoken to for a few years or whatever, and people being so excited for me was lovely. It was so amazing. But what came with that as time went on, and, you know, both I and the boys realised that this wasn't right. It wasn't a good synergy between us. It made it very difficult to kind of step away from, and anyway, it happened the way it happened, and we did sort of part ways, and I still love those guys dearly. That album is still one of my proudest things that I've recorded so far. I love the sound of the drums on it, I love the sound of the album. Dan Hawkins, well done. You nailed that. You absolutely nailed that production. I really wish I had paid more attention about what you were doing recording wise, but I didn't have the knowledge at the time to actually even know what was going on. But my goodness, the appreciation that I have of the sound of that album, I can't even begin to tell you. But anyway, it sort of happened, and I remember getting off the call when we decided to split, and I wasn't going to be their drummer anymore, and I was upset, obviously, and then I was scared. I was terrified, to be honest. So anyway, the way that I dealt with that is I kind of just went, right, I need to just sit and think about this. And what I realised was, and this is more in retrospect than at the time. At the time, it was terrifying. I didn't want people to know that I had failed. Again, I was in this sort of depressive state. Really, it was tough. I was trying to climb out of it daily. I was trying to see the wood from the trees. I was trying to find a path and just go, oh my God, like it was literally like being in the middle of the ocean and just going, oh, well, what now? There's nothing around me. I don't know what to do. But everyone thinks that I'm in this other place. You know, I assume that everyone would just think that I was touring with the Darkness for the rest of the year. So that means that nobody is going to call me for any work. So it all just was a lot. It was very overwhelming. In retrospect, what I realised was this was a great opportunity, and it's something that I happened to come across as a byproduct of the situation, was that it gave me a chance to actually reevaluate my career, my life, like my day-to-day life, and what I actually wanted for my life. And it gave me the space and the opportunity to make some choices, and rather than being a victim to a situation, which is my least favourite position to be in, by the way. It's not I refuse, but if I can help it, if I can physically do anything, I will not be a victim in a situation. I need to feel like I have some sort of power, some sort of autonomy over my own life. And like I say, in retrospect, the parting ways with the Darkness gave me that insight, it gave me that opportunity, and retrospectively, whenever things happen that I'm like, oh no, this is bad, in inverted commas, one of the best ways that I look back on stuff is looking to that point and going, no, this is an opportunity to recognise why this feels bad and move forward, and now you have the space to actually question what's going on and make a move from there. So again, this is why I try to find the positive in a situation that will empower me, I guess, and use it as an opportunity. I think that's one of my favourite words when it comes to bad things happening, is like, okay, this is an opportunity for, and then I try and finish that sentence. And sometimes that's a hard sentence to finish, and sometimes it takes a while, but there's always an opportunity somewhere, even if it's just to notice how I'm feeling about a situation. And again, the other one for that is just like, well, at least that's a kind of base level. Well, at least, you know, and let's go back to that darkness situation. If I was where I am now and that just happened, I just got off the call and I was feeling like, oh my God, my thing of like, oh my God, this sucks. Well, at least I had an amazing time. At least I got to play those songs with those guys who wrote them, and they sounded incredible, and it was played the way it was meant to play. Well, at least I recorded an album with them that I'm so proud of. Well, at least I got to tour around Ireland, which I don't know anyone that does a tour of Ireland, and I had so much fun doing that. Well, at least I've met some new amazing people. Well, at least I had a lot of fun. Well, at least we had some crazy, weird, surreal times. Well, at least we did that weird photo shoot where this giant owl turned up, and, you know, just all these things that were so wonderful about that situation that I could have dwelled in the, oh, this sucks, and that's the end of the sentence. But when you start going, well, at least, there's so many beautiful things that you can find in any situation. And trust me when I say it doesn't negate the pain, the difficulty, you know, the next scary steps that you might have to take, because there are, and the next steps that I took out of that were really, really scary to me. I ended up doing this one-woman show. It was terrifying, but I'm glad I did it. I'm really glad I did it. That then led me to realizing about what I wanted to be doing day to day, and opening up my remote recording studio, which has absolutely changed my life. It's changed my life for so many ways in the better, and that's not just me being positive, that is a fact. Like it's given me a life that is so much more in line with my core feelings, basically, just who I am as a person. You know, I am not this rock and roll person. I don't know whether you've noticed. I love the fact that I have the chance to have my own business, that I get to have time where I'm at home, and which means I get to cook. That's basically where my life revolves around. I get to cook every day if I want to. You know, I'm currently looking out the window at this beautiful field with a sky, and the sun is shining, and just life is amazing right now. It gives me the variety that I absolutely crave in life, and all these things wouldn't have come from that inherently negative moment with the darkness. Now, another side to this obviously is like, it's all good and well talking about career and all that sort of stuff, but seeing the positive in life, like life experiences, can be a little more tricky, definitely. And whether this is when, let's say, a relationship ends, that can be tough, or when maybe you lose someone passes away, and, you know, these are all experiences that we all will have at some point. So let's talk about a relationship ending. So that can be one of the most painful things ever in the world, and, you know, as I say, we've all been through it, I would imagine, whether that's a romantic relationship, whether that's a friendship even, and it ending can be so heartbreaking and so painful. But I try to view this in a similar way, actually, to relationships with bands and artists, and it kind of, again, I look back at previous sort of relationships and stuff like that, and I just think, okay, this is giving me the space to reassess, and, you know, whether that be emotion, it's usually emotional space for me, to be honest, because when I'm with people, you know, I really give all my emotion and feeling to that person, you know, when I'm spending time with them, even when I'm not with them, if I'm thinking about them, you know, all that sort of stuff. But often that for me has meant that I neglect how I'm actually feeling about the situation, which is rough, and it's something that I'm constantly working on. It's what I'm currently working on in therapy, actually, which is very interesting. I won't talk to you about it because it's a bit early for that, but it's interesting. It's very confronting. It's very painful, but to be able to be given an opportunity to kind of just step back, and once a relationship has ended, to kind of look at it and go, right, what positives can I get from this? I think that gives credence to the value of the relationship, even if it's ended badly. And obviously some do end badly and with a lot of pain and, you know, hurt and all that sort of stuff. But I try to bring the positive out of the situation, and that doesn't always happen straight away. It definitely doesn't. But sometimes a little way down the line, just to almost honour what that relationship was. Because at some point it was good. You probably wouldn't have been there if, well, maybe you were, but there has to be something good that comes out of it. And whether that's just learning about yourself, if you've left the relationship, maybe it's just acknowledging the strength that it took to leave that situation, no matter what led up to it, because it, you know, it's all very complicated. Now, when it comes to people passing away, that's obviously to think about trying to find a positive in that situation that isn't quite the right terminology, I don't think, because it's horrendous when you lose people and people pass away that you love and care about. That can be difficult. I'm getting slightly emotional talking about that. So I've lost a few people recently that have been a big part of my life at various times. And I feel like the best way that I'm dealing with that, and you know, these are people that have passed away years ago, but they're still a part of me. So my only aim, let me just take a minute. My only aim when it comes to those people that I miss dearly is to honour them and just to recognise that they may not be here, but I am. So I need to appreciate every moment that I have on this earth. I need to, you know, if they're musicians, there's a particular drummer that I'm thinking of, he doesn't get to be here anymore. So often when I'm playing, I take a moment and I just think about him and I'm like, yeah, like, you're still with me, you know, and whether that's family members as well, you know, it's just the positive that I try and find is like, I get to be here and therefore I get to honour you always. And I think that that's a positive in a very negative situation. But the other thing is you can kind of like recognise the impact that they've had on the person that you are right now. And that is something that is positive and wonderful. So yeah, like I say, it doesn't negate the fact that things are bad and things are sad sometimes, like they are. But you can always put some sort of positive spin on it so that you can kind of find the good in a bad situation. And I'll leave you with this thought because it encapsulates how I feel about finding the positive in stuff. In fact, before I say that, I will say this also, because it's something that I've realised recently that I have been doing, but I'm trying to not do so much now, is that in the moment where you need to find a positive, I think it's a really great skill to be able to find that and move on. However, what I've realised I don't do, and I'm trying to do more, is still feeling the negative emotions. And it doesn't need to be in that moment that you need to find the positive to move forward or whatever, but at some point it's probably good to address the negative side of stuff and allow that and just feel it all, feel everything, let it out. I've spent a large, pretty much, maybe not all, but like the majority of my life trying to suppress the negative feelings, the negative emotions and all of that sort of stuff, which with it comes very bad consequences. So I would say don't do that. But what I would say is, you know, just use the emotions that will serve you in the moment. Use whatever tools you need in the moment, but like just give yourself time and space at some point to feel all the bad stuff, because at the end of the day, yes, you can choose what you focus on, because you know, experiences are objective to some degree. You know, there are things about experiences that are definitely objective, but you can choose to believe things about a situation and make it subjective, which means that your truth can be serving you in a positive way. And that's what I try and do. The point is, when things happen, when let's go back to this auditioning thing. When you don't get an audition, there are a million reasons that might have happened. And you can either choose to tell yourself the story that it's because you're no good, it's because they didn't like you, it's because your playing wasn't good enough, it's because, all these negative things, which in themselves may serve a purpose. However, in my experience, and it's just my experience, I tend to choose to believe the things that are more empowering to me and will make me move forward in a positive way, because it's very easy for me to get stuck in a rut, to fall down that well, to get into that state of depression. I'm better now, as I say, since starting these meds, which is awesome, but it is still a route that I do go down, and I don't enjoy it. Like I said, I'm trying to embrace it and feel it still, but I'd prefer in the moment, when it matters, when I need to just survive, and I feel like I'm sort of like, maybe not drowning, but treading water, and feel like I might be pulled down. I need to choose to believe something that will empower me, something that's logical. It doesn't need to be that, something on the far end of, I didn't get the audition because I'm too overqualified, I'm too good, they loved me too much. It has to be realistic to me, which is more like it's just a bad fit. I wasn't the right personality. My playing just wasn't the right style for what the music is. Or there was someone more suited. That's okay, that's fine, great, okay, let's move on to the next. That allows me that. It allows me the space and the opportunity to move on in a positive way. So I think that if you can kind of like actively just go, look, there's many versions of this story of what just happened that I can tell myself. What's one that's actually going to help me? And often for me, it's a positive one. It's at least. That's often the best kind of next bit that I can tell myself. Something bad happens. Oh well, at least it's my default setting. And funnily enough, I didn't actually realise that I did this. It was a friend of mine, one of my dear friends, who I don't even know what I was doing. It was something so minor that I basically was like, oh no, that's rubbish. Well, anyway, at least da 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 da. And they said to me, it's amazing how you do that. And I was like, do what? I don't understand. And they said, anything, even if it's small that happens, you go, oh, well, at least. And then you make it okay, and you make it better, and it's positive. And I was like, do you know what? I didn't even realise that I do that. And again, I'm really grateful that that's how I react to things. However, again, I will caveat that with, but don't deprive yourself of feeling all the things, because that leads to other problems. So I'm working on that. It's something I'm paying a therapist for, so I'm not going to talk about that. I have not a lot of experience. It's difficult. That's the only experience that I have right now, and I'm going to leave it on that note. So I hope that this I apologise, this is a very rambly episode, even for me, but I hope that something in there has resonated with you, because I wanted to share how I managed to be positive, and like I say, it's not all the time. It's not. I promise you, there are moments that I'm like, oh, this is hard, but I'm always endeavouring to find the positive, to find the good thing, the little nugget of like brilliance that I'm like, okay, that's beautiful. It's painful, but it's beautiful. Well, at least this. Well, at least that. That is my default now, and I'm so happy that it is. It's taken a long time to get here. It does take work. It takes a lot of noticing your natural reactions and then changing the thought pattern and the story that you're telling yourself. Again, maybe I'll go into that one day, talking about stories that you tell yourself and how important that is, because that is so important. Oh my goodness. And again, I want to do something on the chimp paradox. If you want to learn more about all that sort of stuff, the chimp paradox, just talk to yourself. It's really, really useful. I find it really useful. And yeah, I hope that this has given you some ideas, at least, in how you can bring a little more positivity or positive thinking, or do you know what, it's not even that, it's empowered thinking, I think, is a better way to say it, because I'm sure that some people are really motivated by negative thoughts, and I think at some stage of my life I definitely was. But I can tell you, for me, the positive empowerment, so much better than the negative empowerment, so much better. So 5 stars, would recommend. Anyway, I hope this has helped in some way. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Again, apologies for the rambling nature, but you know me by now, so here we are. If you have enjoyed this, then please feel free to like, subscribe and share. If you'd like to go the extra mile and support this podcast, you now can on Patreon. So you can go to patreon.com/Emily Drums. That's patreon.com/Emily Drums. And on there you can get early access to episodes. I do Zoom hangs, and you can also suggest any subjects for future episodes that I can help with, basically. But or maybe not help with, but at least ramble about for how long have we been doing this? Oh my goodness, probably about almost 40 minutes. That's exciting. Anyway, I hope that you're well. I thought this was going to be a short episode. How wrong I was. I hope you're well. I hope you're having a lovely day wherever you are, whatever you're up to, and I will see you next time for another subject. All right, lots of love. See you later. Mwah. Bye.